the era of the deep-water commercial sailing ships was coming to its close, several steamship companies with concern for their deck officer requirements decided to train their future officers as cadets in training ships under their own house flags. These were in the form of square-rigged vessels fitted to accommodate several cadets. They were classified as cargo-cum-cadet ships, and for the purpose, existing ships were purchased. The Comte de Smet de Neyer was built as a cadet training ship for her owners, the Association Maritime Belge. On the 20th October 1904, during her fitting out in James Watt Dock, Greenock, she slipped over on her beam ends and sank, barely giving time for the many workers aboard to escape with their lives. It took 4 weeks to raise her, but fitting out was completed and she was handed over to her owners in late December 1904. The Comte de Smet de Neyer finally left Greenock on the 22nd December 1904 in perfect order under tow of the tug President Ludwig, bound for Antwerp. Belgian experts were concerned about her seaworthiness even before she left Greenock. Their doubts were tragically confirmed when, 2 years later, on the 19th April 1906, she sprang a leak and sank off Ushant in the Bay of Biscay, drowning 32 of the 54 crew on board, including 18 cadets on their first voyage. This tragedy, however, immediately appears to be of lesser importance than that which determined the end of another ship built in the same period, the one which had been called l'Avenir. L'Avenir, therefore, launched in Bremerhaven in 1908, owned by the Association Maritime Belge, entered service specifically to replace the Comte de Smet de Neyer and fulfilled this task admirably for almost a quarter of a century until 1932. She had a steel hull, was 87.1 meters long, had a beam of 13.8 meters and depth of 7.7 meters. She had 4 masts and her tonnage was 2,738 GRT. When the Great War began, l'Avenir was laid up at Le Havre, France, where she stayed until May 1915, when she sailed to New York. She survived the war and afterward had a long career as a Belgian sail training ship registered in Antwerp. In 1932, Association Maritime Belge sold her to Gustav Eriksson, a Finn who re-registered her in Mariehamn. Eriksson operated a notable fleet of sailing cargo ships, which in the 1930s dominated the annual grain race to bring wheat from Australia to Europe. In 1933-34, the pianist and composer Percy Grainger and his second wife, the artist Ella Strum, were passengers on l'Avenir from Europe to Port Germain, South Australia. L'Avenir turned up at Port Germain once, shockingly, with a female crew member. This was the only time a female crew member appeared in the commercial life of the jetty. A Canadian female cadet, Annette Brock, commonly known as Jackie, was the bridesmaid at the wedding of 2 l'Avenir passengers, Mr. Olav Hulten and Miss Barbara Strachey, whose romance developed on the voyage of the four-masted Finnish barque. In 1937, the Hamburg America line, HAPAG, bought l'Avenir from Eriksson and had her overhauled and refitted as a training ship for its officer cadets. HAPAG renamed the ship Admiral Karpfanger, after Berend Jacobsen Karpfanger, a 17th century admiral of the Hanseatic League, and re-registered her in Hamburg. In September 1937, Admiral Karpfanger sailed from Hamburg with a complement of 27 men and 33 cadets. The ship under Captain Reinhold Walker was moored alongside the Port Germain jetty on January 6, 1938, and loaded with 3,447 tons of wheat over a month. By that stage, the Nazis were in control of Germany, and the Admiral Karpfanger was actually flying the German swastika, perhaps the only place in Australia where that has occurred. During that time, the cadet sailors attended a dance aboard the ship Munta, which was visiting the port. Passengers were much impressed with the good manners and singing skills of the crew. On the 8th of February, 1938, Admiral Karpfanger left Port Germain for Falmouth, United Kingdom, on her first wheat passage for the Hamburg America line. On the 1st of March, she reported to a Warua radio station on the southern tip of New Zealand that her position was 51 degrees south, 172 degrees east, due south of the South Island. This showed that her master had chosen to sail eastward to Europe via Cape Horn. Her radio generator was known to be malfunctioning, but radio contact was maintained until March 12th, when the last message was received. She acknowledged receipt of a message containing birthday greetings to one of the cadets from his parents in Germany, and from there sailed into the unknown. HAPAG took some months to realize that the barque was missing. On June 24th, the authorities of New Zealand were informed. It was feared that the ship might have been stranded on either the Bounty Islands or Antipodes Island, both sub-Antarctic islands of New Zealand. The first to search for the missing ship was the Argentinian motor vessel Bahia Blanca, which found nothing. Another HAPAG ship, Loina, sailing on the same route, searched for possible wreckage without results. In October, a Chilean ship patrolling the Cape Horn area, docking in Windhound Bay on the island of Navarino, found some wooden and metal wreckage on the beach, with which there was a rope clearly belonging to those used only by the Belgian Navy, and also mounted on the missing ship. These pieces of wreckage were believed to be from Admiral Karpfanger. According to the logbooks of another merchant ship passing through the same area during March 1938, that year the icebergs breaking off from the Antarctic pack ice pushed unusually far north. The owners and Lloyds of London, who had insured her, after a brief inquiry, declared her lost with all hands. The judicial inquiry held in Hamburg in 1939, which declared the ship lost due to force majeure, also revealed critical issues which, despite the good conditions and relative safety of the ship, could represent opportunities for risk. For example, the ship was equipped with 2 steering wheels, one at the stern and one that had been added some time ago, at the request of Captain Emil Zander in the center. It required the cooperation of several helmsmen, but made control easier in bad weather and provided greater safety in heavy seas. However, if the ship was hit by an unexpected stern blow, the blow would cause a sequence of incidents: strong tendency to luff, turning the bow in the direction of the wind, blocking of the rudder, inability to recover course, possibly resulting in the dreaded capsize. Another factor that could have played a crucial role in the sinking of the Admiral Karpfanger is the possibility that she had too much sail hoisted, a consequence of the tradition on board the large German sailing ships of making their voyages by forcing speed. Some authors attribute the loss of the ship to a collision with an iceberg, either during the blindness of a dark night or under the influence of a thick fog. At the time of the sinking, the ship was equipped with steel bulkheads and a double bottom. Even if a collision with an iceberg had occurred, it is highly unlikely that all the compartments of the double bottom would have been torn open and flooded at the same time. If such a collision had really occurred, the ship would have remained afloat long enough to allow at least a radio signal of distress to be sent. Actually, the fact that no distress signals were sent, or at least no one received them, by radio during the disaster, leads one to think of a sudden and overly accelerated sinking. The tragedy claimed the lives of 60 crew members, including 33 cadets aged 15 to 18.